Ever opened your mail, seen a certified letter with your name on it, and thought, wonder what this is? And by the time you finish reading, you're mentally picking out a cardboard box under a bridge to live in? Yeah, that was me, standing in my kitchen in sweatpants, cereal getting soggy, staring at a letter that said I owed my HOA $15,000 in fines, $500 a day, for unauthorized landscaping. And the funniest, dumbest, most infuriating part? It wasn't landscaping. It was the safety system that kept my gun range from killing anybody. Let me back up a sec. I'm not the cause trouble, flip tables type. I'm the pays taxes early, returns shopping carts, reads the HOA rules just in case type. 12 years in the military will do that to you. You learn to respect rules, or at least understand which ones can actually blow up in your face. About 8 years ago, I bought this place, 15 acres on the edge of a so-called luxury development. My lot was an out parcel, grandfathered in when the original developer ran out of money and started selling off chunks. My deed was old school, no commercial use, no crazy tall structures, nothing about aesthetic harmony or Rolling Hills character, or any of that brochure nonsense. I bought it for the space, the quiet, and for the gun range. Shooting's not a weekend midlife crisis for me. It's part of who I am. When I got out of the service, I promised myself if I ever had property, I'd build a proper private range. Not some sketchy backyard setup with beer cans and pallets, but something safer than half the public ranges out there. So I did it by the book. Hired a legit engineering firm. Had them design berms with specific slopes, drainage, sound baffling, the whole 9 yards. 8-foot-high earthworks, covered in native grass, looked like natural hills if you didn't know better. I had the sheriff's department come check it out before I ever fired a shot. Everything documented, everything legal, everything inspected. From the road, you wouldn't even know it was there. And with the sound suppression, half my neighbors probably thought any gunshots were someone's TV a little too loud. For years, no drama. I kept my place cleaner than most, mowed, trimmed, no junk cars, no chaos. I'd check local ordinances every few months like a nerd just to make sure nothing had changed. I joined the county shooting club, taught some safety classes, did my thing. Then the HOA board changed. The old board was mostly retirees who cared about real issues, broken streetlights, snow removal, trash pickup. They knew my property had a weird history and basically lived by the rule of, if it's not bothering anyone, let it be. The new board man. Whole other animal. The president was this woman straight out of corporate America, the kind of person who says synergy, unironically, and thinks leveraging core competencies is a personality. She finally had a kingdom, not a corner cubicle, a whole HOA, and you could tell she was going to use every square inch of it. She started sending out these emails about elevating our community standards and proactive aesthetic management to protect property values. You know that tone, where you can practically hear the PowerPoint transitions. Most neighbors rolled their eyes. Me, my little military brain went, here we go, when people start talking about raising standards, somebody's about to get screwed. First it was petty stuff. Letters about lawn height. Mailbox colors. A guy got cited because his vegetable garden was inconsistent with the residential character of the community. Another neighbor got dinged for parking his own boat in his own driveway. I figured, okay, they're annoying, but my range is invisible, 100% legal, and grandfathered. Still, I got that itch between my shoulders, so I started documenting photos of my property from every angle, copies of permits, engineering reports, had a surveyor come out and mark every line like it was a battlefield map. Just in case. Then one Tuesday morning in March, I'm having coffee, checking email, and hear trucks outside. I look out and see 2 HOA landscaping company trucks parked near my property line. 3 guys with tape measures and clipboards are out there, pointing at my berms. I throw on a jacket, walk out, try to keep my voice casual. Morning. Can I help you with something? The crew leader won't quite meet my eyes. We're just doing some measurements for the HOA board. Nothing to worry about. Measurements of what, exactly? He squints at his clipboard. Just the dirt situation back there. He gestures toward my range. That's my private property. I say, still calm but with the volume turned up a notch. Do you have permission to be on it? The board said we were supposed to document the violation, he mutters. What violation? I don't know, man. They just told us to measure the height and width of those dirt piles. Dirt piles. I told them, very politely, they needed to get off my land immediately, and that any future survey would require written permission. To their credit, they left quick. but I knew the first shot had just been fired. 2 days later, the certified letter showed up. Thick envelope, name of some law office I'd never heard of. I open it, and my stomach just drops. Notice of property lien and demand for payment. $15,000 in accumulated fines, calculated at $500 a day for the last month, plus administrative fees. If I didn't pay within 30 days, they'd begin foreclosure proceedings to recover the debt. They also claimed my berms were unauthorized industrial-grade landscaping and aesthetic violations inconsistent with the rolling hills character of the neighborhood. I read that letter 3 times. They were basically saying, your safety berms are ugly dirt, and we can take your house over it. There's a little handwritten note at the bottom from the president. Per community bylaws, aesthetic violations may result in immediate liens regardless of prior approval or grandfathered status. You know that feeling when anger and disbelief collide, and you just start laughing because your brain doesn't know what else to do. I spent the rest of the day going through my documents with a fine-tooth comb. My deed was older than their covenants. Their rolling hills poetry didn't apply to me. So the next morning, I called the law office on the letter. Guy gets on the phone. Sounds like a junior associate reading off a script. He tells me the HOA has the right to enforce community standards on all properties within their jurisdiction regardless of development date. I say, my range is legal, engineered, inspected, and my deed predates your covenants. He says, well, legal and compliant with HOA standards are 2 different things. When I point out the grandfathered status, he says, HOA authority supersedes individual deed restrictions in matters of community standards, which is not how any of this works. That's when I realized I needed my own shark. Spent the weekend researching and found an attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. Smartest money I've spent in a long time. She looked through my file and went, this lien is garbage, and these people are drunk on power. We decide to start simple. Show up to the next board meeting, present the facts, give them a chance to act like adults. So we walk into the community clubhouse, this big fancy building with manicured landscaping and a park out back. A couple dozen residents showed up, mostly for the show. The board is at this long table up front. The president has her professional smile on, the type they probably teach in middle management seminars. When my agenda item comes up, she doesn't even really look at me. We have a property violation issue to address with the resident at Lot 14. I stand. That would be me. I'm here with my attorney to discuss the lien you placed on my property. Her smile tightens. The board has determined that the unauthorized earthworks on your property are not consistent with our community standards. The fines and fees are clearly laid out in the notice you received. My attorney starts, we'd like to present information about the property's grandfathered status and the legal construction of the range. The president cuts her off with a raised hand. Our standards apply to every square inch of this community. We own the rights to enforce the view and character of this neighborhood. The earthworks are an eyesore that affects property values for everyone. I built those berms to meet state safety specs, I say. They're literally what keeps bullets from leaving my property. She gives me this icy little smile. I don't care what the state allows. We have higher standards here. You can either pay the fines and remove the violation, or we'll proceed with foreclosure. It's that simple. The way she said foreclosure, like she was talking about rescheduling a Zoom meeting, that stuck with me. My attorney tries again, mentions deed restrictions, legal limits to HOA authority. The president waves it off. Our legal counsel has assured us we're well within our rights. The rest of the board just nods along like bobbleheads. They'd already decided the script. We were just there to play our parts. We walked out, and I was angry but not surprised. I've dealt with entitled people before. Ex who cheated on me with my own sister. Cousin who thought my bank account existed to fund her surprise triplets. Bosses who panicked about their bonuses and threw me under the bus. But there's a special flavor of arrogance that comes with someone holding a tiny bit of power and thinking it makes them king of the world. My attorney just looked at me and said, all right, if they want to play hardball, let's see what they're actually standing on. That's when we pulled the one record that changed the whole game. She ordered a deep title search, not just my parcel, but all the developer stuff going back to when this place was cow pasture. A week later, she calls me, and I can hear the smile in her voice. Remember that clubhouse you just went to? She says. Technically that's yours. Long story short, when the original developer ran into financial trouble, they'd done some creative paperwork. There were residual development rights, basically leftover bits of ownership that never got properly transferred to the HOA. Those rights got bundled and sold to the person I bought my property from. And when I bought the out parcel, they threw those rights in as a tax write-off like, here, have these useless old rights, whatever. Those useless rights? On paper, they still owned any undeveloped parcels that hadn't been deeded correctly, including the 5 acres under the clubhouse, the parking lot, and half that nice little park. We got a surveyor, the same company that had done the original development surveys, to come out. He walks the lines, shakes his head, and says, yeah, I tried to flag this years ago when they wanted to expand the lot. Nobody listened. Then he hands us the old paperwork. So now it's official. The HOA has been sitting their fancy clubhouse on my land for almost a decade rent-free. My attorney spreads everything out on her conference table like a war map and goes, you realize what this means, right? I just sit there stunned. They threaten to foreclose on me while their little kingdom is literally squatting on my property. Exactly, she says. You ready to go on offense? Our first move wasn't to argue about the lien. It was a notice of trespass and demand for payment. We sent it certified to every board member. Very polite, very professional. Dear board, for approximately X years you have operated your clubhouse and related facilities on my private property without permission or compensation. Please remit 5 years of back rent at fair market value, estimated at $80,000 within 30 days, or we will pursue further legal remedies. And then just to really drive the point home, we added a little twist of our own. Since they cared so much about aesthetic standards, I informed them that as the actual landowner, I'd be conducting an aesthetic inspection of their building to make sure it met my standards. My attorney had dug up this obscure county code about historical character preservation that gave property owners broad say over structures on their land. It was probably meant for old downtown districts, but the language was generic enough. 3 days later, I show up at the clubhouse with my inspection team, which is just my contractor buddy with a clipboard and the world's best poker face. We walk around taking pictures, making notes. The beige and brown paint scheme? Under my new historical standards, offensively bland. I sent them a violation notice demanding they repaint the entire building in a historically appropriate color within 30 days or face fines of $1,000 a day. And since the old farm buildings in the area used to be bright orange? Yeah, I helpfully suggested bright orange. I cited them for non-native landscaping, tacky signage, and light pollution from their floodlights, too. Total fines on my spreadsheet, $3,000 and counting. The president called me within hours, absolutely losing it. What do you think you're doing? She snapped. Enforcing aesthetic standards, I said, keeping my voice calm. If engineered safety berms are unsightly enough for a $15,000 lien, I figure beige stucco is offensive enough to paint. She hung up on me, but the message landed. Within days, they were in full panic mode. Emergency board meeting. Residents murmuring. Somebody finally asked the question out loud. Do we actually own the land the clubhouse is on? The president tried to dodge, but rumors spread fast. Then my attorney filed a quiet title action in county court, basically asking a judge to officially declare that, on paper and in reality, I owned that land, and the HOA had no right to it. The complaint was airtight, original documents, title search, surveys, everything. 2 days later, I get a call, not from the junior script reader, but from the senior partner at their firm. Whole different tone. Respectful, careful. My clients appear to have misapprehended certain aspects of the property situation, he says. We'd like to discuss a global settlement. We sit down in his conference room. My attorney and I on one side, him on the other, binder full of their mistakes in front of him. He basically admits they overreached, the lien, the threats, the bogus legal advice about their covenants superseding my deed. The negotiation takes a few hours. They keep fishing for a way to save face. My attorney just keeps bringing it back to reality. They tried to take his home over a legal safety feature, she says. Meanwhile, they've been trespassing for years. He's been more than patient. In the end, the deal we signed was better than anything I'd imagined that first day in my kitchen with my cereal going mushy. They agreed to immediately remove the lien on my property, pay all my legal fees, sign a permanent covenant waiver exempting my property from any current or future aesthetic or landscaping standards. And the cherry on top, we did a lease for the clubhouse land. I'd lease it to the HOA for $1 a year, so the community could keep using it, but with a behavioral clause. If they ever harassed me or any other grandfathered-out parcel owner with frivolous violations again, the lease terminated. They'd have 30 days to vacate and restore the land to its natural state. Translation: tear their precious clubhouse down. The night they read that settlement out at the board meeting, you could feel the air change in the room. The same president who'd told me, "We own every square inch of this community," had to stand there and announce that actually there were limits, and my property was officially out of their reach. Afterward, neighbors came up, clapping me on the shoulder, thanking me. An older gentleman told me his constant violations about his classic car in the driveway magically disappeared once word got around about that behavioral clause. The next morning, I went out to my range, set up some targets, and fired a few rounds. Same berms, same sound, same routine, but the echo off those earthworks felt different. Every shot was a reminder that sometimes, if you stand your ground and do your homework, the bully who thought they could take everything from you ends up paying your lawyer instead. A month later, they did repaint the clubhouse, not bright orange, sadly, but a deep green that actually looks way better than the old beige. I get a good laugh out of that every time I drive by. Once a year, they drop off $1 for the lease, and I tuck it into an envelope in my desk like a little trophy. The range is still there, legal and documented. My home is still my castle, and the HOA knows exactly where their power stops. So yeah, that's how a boring, rule-following ex-military guy got dragged into a war with his HOA and walked out owning their castle's dirt. Now I'm curious, what do you think? Did I go too far, or was it fair game after they tried to hang a foreclosure over my head for doing safety the right way? Where's the line between justice and petty? And have you ever had to draw that line with an HOA, a boss, a neighbor, or even your own family? Drop your stories, your hot takes on what's right and wrong, and your own little victories down in the comments. I want to hear every messy, satisfying detail.